Andrew Wiggins never lived up to the hype. Let's get into this. Andrew Wiggins was drafted number 1 overall in the 2014 NBA draft, and when Andrew Wiggins was coming out of college, he drew many comparisons to LeBron James as maybe the next version of LeBron James. In college, Andrew Wiggins completely wowed both NBA fans and scouts and college fans as well, with his amazing athleticism as well as the ability to be an absolute bucket on the offensive side of the ball. But maybe the craziest part of all the comparisons to LeBron James is actually the Cleveland Cavaliers were the one that drafted Andrew Wiggins number 1 overall, and of course that was the year that LeBron James came back to the Cavaliers. So now Andrew Wiggins could potentially be playing with LeBron James. But of course, as we all know, Andrew Wiggins ended up getting traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Kevin Love. Even though that Andrew Wiggins wasn't playing with LeBron James in Cleveland and actually ended up going to Minnesota with the Timberwolves, there was still a ton of hype of what Andrew Wiggins could potentially be, and a lot of people thought that the Cavaliers maybe made a mistake trading away a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who a lot of people thought could potentially be the next LeBron James. And in Andrew Wiggins' rookie season, he proved all the people that thought he was a great scorer right, averaging 17 points per game on 44% shooting from the field in his rookie year. Now, once again, these stats are from all the way back in 2014, and one thing that you do have to recognize, if Andrew Wiggins was putting up these numbers currently in 2021, those numbers would still be pretty good, but numbers now currently are pretty inflated, so averaging 17 points per game back then is kind of like averaging anywhere from 19 to 20 points now, just due to the inflated stats. So then you realize that Andrew Wiggins averaging 17 points per game as a rookie was actually really good. And what happened in the next few seasons for Andrew Wiggins is exactly what you want to see from a young player. In his second season, he bumped his stats up to 21 points per game on 46% shooting. And then in his third season, he bumped his stats up once again to 24 points per game on once again 45% shooting. And it was just good to see in his first 3 seasons, every single season he improved. That's exactly what you want to see from your young player. But after that third season, things started to go a little bit wrong for Andrew Wiggins. After averaging 24 points per game in this third season, in his fourth season, his numbers dropped down to 18 points per game on 43% shooting from the field, so less efficient and less points per game. And not only were his stats going down, but there was becoming a question that was arising was Andrew Wiggins actually a winning player? Because yeah, he was definitely putting up great stats, but the issue was first his efficiency numbers weren't great throughout his entire career, but on top of that, they were just never winning. Whenever a new rookie comes into the NBA, even if he has a ton of expectations, the first thing you want to see from this guy, if he can individually play by himself, can he put up great numbers? Could he play well with his teammates? How does he actually look on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball? Does he look comfortable out there? You want to see the eye test of him personally. And when you look at Andrew Wiggins, he kind of passed all those tests. But after that first few seasons as a rookie and you really prove yourself that you're able to play in this league and you're definitely at least a decent player in this league, and Andrew Wiggins was showing he was definitely more than a decent player, the next step would be how can you actually help your team win? And after a few seasons that Wiggins just completely didn't help the Timberwolves win whatsoever, and even when the Timberwolves brought him a lot of help, like bringing in another number 1 overall pick in Karl Anthony Towns and some other young players I had on the roster, and still they weren't winning, obviously there was an issue there. And a lot of people at that point, after his first initial few seasons and the Timberwolves still were not winning, we're starting to see Andrew Wiggins as a guy who could definitely put up numbers and was talented on the offensive side of the ball, but he's kind of putting up empty numbers because they were never turning into wins. And then a few seasons later, the Minnesota Timberwolves ended up bringing in Jimmy Butler, which definitely in the initial season was a great thing. The Timberwolves finally made the playoffs and everything was working out pretty well, although they didn't do much in the playoffs. But then the season after that, everything completely tailed out of control and the Timberwolves completely fell off and didn't make the playoffs once again, and Jimmy Butler ended up leaving that team. And even though Andrew Wiggins was putting up great numbers, the Minnesota Timberwolves actually decided to move on from Andrew Wiggins and trade him to the Golden State Warriors after drafting him and having such high expectations for him. Now obviously Andrew Wiggins in Minnesota didn't end up working out, but in my opinion, why do I think that was? I personally think there's a few different reasons why Andrew Wiggins didn't end up working out in Minnesota, and one of the first reasons is that Andrew Wiggins was just not efficient enough overall, and that kind of led to a bunch of other issues. Andrew Wiggins throughout his whole career was never known as a three-point shooter. He was more of a guy who just relied on his athleticism getting all the way to the basket and somewhat created a little bit of a mid-range shot for himself, which is pretty good, but you kind of want to extend yourself all the way out to that three-point range to really make you a very efficient, which is the most important thing, and a lethal scorer in this league. And one thing Andrew Wiggins was never able to do, at least for the the Minnesota Timberwolves was extend his reach consistently all the way out to that 3-point line, and people definitely question his work ethic due to that. And another reason, which kind of ties into his efficiency numbers, and that's kind of the effect of this, but was just the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves were just never winning. In my opinion, the Minnesota Timberwolves definitely gave Wiggins enough time to really figure it out and start winning, but there always is two sides to the argument, and you could make the argument, and you honestly would be right on saying that the Timberwolves never really gave Andrew Wiggins that much of a shot because they never really put great players around him, although they did give him Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns that one season and other young players, and that team was definitely much better than just a one-year playoff team and not even winning in that playoff series. But overall, I definitely don't think that Andrew Wiggins is a bad player. I think he's a very good young player and a very talented one, and his career with the Minnesota Timberwolves I think was definitely a success overall. I think the reason why a lot of people look back at his Minnesota Timberwolves tenure and act like Andrew Wiggins was kind of a disappointment was mostly due to the fact that the comparisons he was getting was kind of unfair at the time. Being compared to LeBron James and having to live up to that insanely high expectation, I think it was a little unfair to Andrew Wiggins, and if Wiggins wasn't necessarily getting those comparisons to LeBron James, when we look back at his tenure with the Timberwolves, averaging basically 22-23 points per game with them, I think we could definitely say it was a success and definitely a pretty good draft pick for the Minnesota Timberwolves overall. But ever since Andrew Wiggins actually got traded to the Golden State Warriors, I think he kind of found himself a new role and adjusted pretty well and actually improved in some areas of his game. Andrew Wiggins with the Warriors is still putting up very good offensive numbers in terms of his scoring ability, averaging around 21-22 points per game still like he was in Minnesota, but the difference is now his efficiency numbers are way up. He's taking less shots, and something that he's really been working on is his 3-point shot, and he improved on his 3-point percentage tremendously compared to where he was in Minnesota, so that's something you have to give him a ton of credit for finally really putting in that work and really improving his 3-point shot. I think that's a huge thing for him, especially in the new NBA. But I personally think the biggest change that Andrew Wiggins made ever since coming to the Golden State Warriors was his defensive ability. In Minnesota, he was never really known as a good defender. He's always just okay, but ever since he got to the Golden State Warriors, not only has he become a good defender, he's actually became an elite defender, always guarding the opposing team's best player, and he uses his length and athleticism very effectively to just be a lockdown defender. And I think the fact that Andrew Wiggins could still score the ball and has improved his 3-point shot as well as became a very, very elite defender in this league, I personally think that breathes a lot of new light into Andrew Wiggins' career and could take him to new heights now. Now, of course, Andrew Wiggins is never going to live up to those expectations he got in his rookie season as being that next LeBron James, and I don't even think he's personally going to become a superstar in this league, but definitely I do think he's a very effective player, and the fact that he could shoot threes now and defend at a very elite level, I definitely do think gives him a lot more value than he did have in Minnesota, although in Minnesota I still thought he was a pretty decent player. But overall, even though Andrew Wiggins wasn't able to live up to the expectations going into his rookie season with Minnesota, I think he's definitely on the right path currently just due to all the things that he's been working on and improved in Golden State. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree with me in saying that Andrew Wiggins definitely didn't live up to his expectations, or did you have different expectations for Wiggins at the time and do you personally think he has lived up to them? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.